next thing we're going to do is run the plies. Starting, tapering an inch per section on this side and a ½ inch per section on this side as we step them in. Centering on this point as the position of load. Okay, we've just mixed up 5 shots of West. And we're pushing it. You can use regular old safety epoxy if you want. Now all I'm going to do here is brush enough resin on here to make sure I get contact. I'm just reproducing my core. You're going to mix it up real dry, and then I'm going to pack that in here. I want to get contact to the core, so I'm going to smear it like this. And then, I can't hear you.
You want to tell them about the aluminum backing plate?
Yeah, this is the same flashing that we used on the gear leg. And I'm going to do this, of course, on both sides. I hope we have enough to do micro for both surfaces all in one shot. That may or may not be the case, but okay, I'm completely coated there. I'll be back with you in a moment when I actually start pushing dry micro into those areas. We got a bunch of dry micro here. This is West, aging West. 5 shots. We don't have long. And this stuff's going to go off like Hiroshima. I'm going to let this sit for a minute because the more critical nature of this is going to be to fill the other side before it goes off. But that's largely the case. That's it, folks. We're back with you after I finish both sides of filling. Shoot. Okay. 5 shots was a bit much. It exothermed on us just as we were getting the last little bit of stuff packed in here. We used that flashing on the sides here as well to finish out the undercut. And I'm very, very carefully scraping off the excess. Just remember when you scrape something that's micro or flocks, scrape it as though it's going to pull an undercut, which it will. That's almost exactly what I want here. I'm going to resand all this stuff tomorrow and make sure that I'm fully back on. There's my edge, right there. Just really take your time, get a nice fit. You'll save a lot of extra sanding and rework later. But I've filled all this. Remember, you painted resin on all the surfaces you want your micro to bond to. It won't just stick to the surface without it. It's too dry. We'll let this cure up, and we'll resand all these areas. Now, the opposing side is a fairly good example of how much sanding is going to be necessary. We'll show you that in our next pieces of landing gear associated tape work. Right now we're going to go to the canard saddle we've been doing earlier in the day. Okay, this hardened up earlier. The first inch of it I clean up here. And I go to the underside and I sand this area too. Just the first inch though. Make sure everything that we sanded before, outside, inside, aft face, forward face, just the first ½ inch or so, is all sanded before we proceed any further. This is rock solid. And Wayne here has gone inside and done the blood test. It failed the blood test, so we go in and we sand all those hairs off so he doesn't bleed. And we're going to sand this side, and we'll be back here for the next step. Okay, since last we spoke, we placed the canard on the airplane. Drop the bolts to the bushings, tighten it up, and use the incidence template to make sure that the incidence was as it was to be. I took a red pen and marked from the inside of the fuselage to the outside of the fuselage a little bit of margins. I'm going to put silver tape here on either side of this to make certain. Would you check to see if the tape's running on that? Looking to the side.
It's running. You know.
I've never heard that whine before. I'm going to go right around the leading edge. It's important. You see this little dip right there? Take a look. Right here? That this area in the interface be surfaced the way you want it in its final configuration, because we're about to take an imprint of this by virtue of the fact that we're going to lay up 2 plies of glass over top of this area, about yay wide, going right just a little bit around the leading edge, and down here to just around this radius, to where my thumbnail is. If this is not accurate, you're going to take that print, and of course you're going to end up chasing that for the rest of the process. I didn't tell Wayne that, so it's not his fault. Butt the layers of tape together, edge to edge. Leave no gap. And then do this on the opposite side. And then we're going to lay up 2 plies of glass here. We're going to do it in safety epoxy, 2410, 2097.
Okay, I cut right here, cut here, and I come up the side. Very good access. This lamp is a whole lot simpler than obviously the one that preceded it. The other one, access was impossible. Now to show you this lamp, put the corner over there on the lower part of the glass. There you go, I'll get it to it. Okay. You can see the pliers stepping. This is your line heat. And suck up the other into nice fourth ply. Well, back to about the 10th ply or so, as you begin to see things stepping more quickly. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we start stepping every inch. Back with it down.
Move your hand, please, just a second. Okay, we go back here and show you the taper again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And the last ply, you can really clearly see where it goes to and where it ends. This is the easy one. That one is the pain. I'll wet this out, let it cure. And now we'll back drill these, pop these pieces off, and put our 17 plies on the inside. The next thing I'm going to do is this inside 4-ply layer down at the bottom. I'll put 2 plies in here first, get the air out of it. 2 more plies, I'll do it on foil. And then I'll run a 2-ply tape up each corner, 2 plies, 2 plies, and add 2 more plies on it. So it'll be 4 plies in this corner, 4 plies in that corner, 4 plies in the vertical corner, 4 plies in the opposite vertical corner, and 4 full plies all the way across, wrapping 1 inch up each side. Back with you then. There we go, there's a 90-degree drill guide. You can see I'm parallel with this back tab. Well, how'd that look, Chris? Pretty good? Yeah. You parallel?
Looks good.
Well, that's it for that drill bit. The lab drill is just to back drill. So I come in from this side. Is that visible?
Looks good.
That is as complex as it gets. It's still quite green, but it's absolutely perfect for what we're doing. It's stiff enough so it won't change shape. Now we take the chisel. There's a pretty clean print left. Now your plywood has served its purpose. I got a clean print on the inside where I'll trim. It's still way in excess, but we'll end up trimming the top here for longeron and such. I'll remove this side as well, and we'll be back to you for our next setup. So we just heated and trimmed this off. Nice taper there from edge to edge. Careful not to peel it off of your laminate. The heat makes it much easier. Trim all this stuff. Get rid of all the hairs here that'll cut you. And then we'll do our next layout. We've done a reassembly of all this stuff. We don't want to leave Wayne here. We've got his other side set up, so we've knocked the tabs off, cleaned all this up, sanded all this stuff out, and trimmed the bottoms up so that they wouldn't interfere with the bottom of the gear leg. And we swing this. Now this will give you some idea of just how parallel all the bolt holes are. You should be able to free slide like that all the way through rotation. That's why we drilled these holes in the jigs the way we did, to make sure that no bind up. Now we're going to get the pieces of wood that we took out of here, and we're going to put them on the other side. You're not going to do that. You're going to do both setups at the same time, angles at the same time, and then do all your glass ups. We did it because we're a little short of glass. Come back out here and recheck. And we have off a perpendicular with a tape just touching the bottom of the spar, 15 3/4 of an inch, and we have it exactly the same on both sides. Measure from the back side of the spar, perpendicular to the spar, to the center of the axle, at the same altitude as well. We even triangulated off of the instrument panel. Came from the instrument panel, making sure that we had someone shouting along the bottom of the spar so that the gear leg was the same height, and we came plus or minus 0.15 total discrepancy between the two, which means it's actually half of that. He's off a triangulation by 0.0725. All quite acceptable. You'll set your final toe in and toe out at the axle by bolting the axle in place and placing a straight edge across them to see, which is perpendicular to the center line, to see if you have any toe in or toe out error, which you'll correct just before flight. Our next step is to put the tabs on the other side, set the geometry up for Wayne so he can glass tonight, and after we've done that, then we'll sand the interior of this, clean all this stuff up here. You can see the super glue in the corner and all the schmutz. We'll get all that out of it, scrape it all out. This is still pretty green, but we're going to sand it, rough it up real good, and then lay up 17 pounds of glass from here over a flux corner, all the way to here, all the way up, allow it to cure, back drill, and then back drill. All right, now we're coming. Okay, after 2 hours of prep this morning and getting sufficient hardener and glass together to finish this up, we've taken some scrap, we've cut them 9.5 inches by 9. 17 plies go in here, continuous pieces of glass. They're all the same size. I'll put a bead of flux in here. This is still quite green. So we're going to get a good chemical bond and a mechanical bond because we roughed it up real good. You can see these little marks here. Those are left from heating the original laminates enough so that the tape shriveled down. That's what these marks are right here. But since it's chemically green, I'm not going to bother sanding that to its entirety. As I mentioned before, just flocks and glass. And after she cures, we back drill. Actually, I'll back drill this side and then run my drill all the way through from this from the opposing side. And we'll be back to you as we lay our first layer down. Grain orientation is plus or minus 45. Just make sure it covers the whole thing. Yeah, we'll heat down each one of these things. It'll take us about a minute per ply to wet these things. If you've got a guy standing there with a heat gun and you're doing the application, boy, you can blaze through these. You can do these things in less than a minute per ply. Even the biggest of these layers, this particular layer up here behind the tabs, didn't take more than 2 hours, 20 minutes for the entire layup. This one in the front took an hour and 45 minutes, including the videotaping. So when you really start getting good at this, you'll find your time really shortens up. All your layers are going to look just like this one. And this is the last big layup you'll do in the landing gear area. We're going to also show you the glass work between the MG30s. But we're going to try and not show you duplication of effort. We're going to heat this and go to the next layer. We'll show you the last one.
Okay, we're back. So as to the mushroom tab, this is number 17. You can see how much cloth is hanging out here. I didn't bother to see the pivot. I'm going to add a little bit with this. I'm going to
Pull this off so you can hear me. My mic is on. Mike? Okay, I will stipple this out the rest of the way. Now you got some idea of what this mess looks like at the end of the layup. This stage of the game, don't try and trim it. Just let it cure. Make sure nothing's hanging over and you won't get a bubble around the edges. Suck up the resin from underneath about every third or fourth ply and you won't end up with a real wet layup. Don't suck up too much or you'll end up with air. But this is acceptable air here, you see in these modeled areas. And next shot will be down here as we're putting in our 4-ply bottom. Okay, brush resin on the bottom. We've made up a 2-ply sheet, 2 of them, that are 5.5 inches wide apiece. I actually made it 8 inches wide so that I could take the extra strips and use them at the back between the spar and the top of the MG30. Now I'm wetting up here about 1.5 inches or so. Make sure I'm fully wet. Take my foil. And I'm going to go from the firewall forward. About right there. It's a little short, so I'm going to keep playing with it until it averages here. Oh, the days before I didn't use foil. I can't imagine. Can you imagine doing this without foil back in these corners? Go out of your mind. Okay, now then if I brush a little resin on it, see a big old bubble underneath there? You just push it out the end. But with resin on it, I can rub on it with my fingers, and it'll slip and slide around. I can work the corners. And the reason I'm going 2 plies a shot is because once I get this foil off of here and I start to stipple, if it was more than 2 plies, I'd have a very difficult time getting the air out from underneath. Raising again for resin on the sides as I'm going to use it like a lubricant and really work the air out of these things. You can hear it coming out of there. Oil coming off.
Voila.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if you can see the oil, but there's a little bit in a few spots. Right there are some big ones. I just do carpet stippling anyway. So it's got air over the whole thing and make sure I don't miss anything. We're going to do the next part the same way. I'll be back to you as we do the tapes. Okay, this is 4.5 inches wide. One there. There. Take the mirror and check them, make sure that they're in the right place. I'm going to feel them. Yep, that's good. Same spot on the other side. Now I'm going to wet them from the outside, rub them, get the air out from underneath them. And then I'll do the back ones. Okay, we'll be back to you for the next step in a moment. And we'll repeat the whole process, which will make 4 plies, 4 plies, 4 plies, 4 plies, and 4 plies. That will be the end of this procedure. Today we have a lot of trimming and fitting to do. All the layups here are finished. We're going to trim this stuff off, and then we're going to trim the upper portion so that it goes inside the longeron. Longeron comes down about 2 inches, and then we shift out inboard and then back down again. So we have a lot of trimming to do on the upper sides. Make sure all your batteries are charged for all your operations. And we'll be back with you after we've done some trimming. All right, here's the not so fun part of this process. I want to make sure you can see this, but I have a fairing 90-degree drill drive. I have a point here that I'm aiming at. I'm going to come back from this side and drill through. I've done my trimming through here. You end up about 3/8 of an inch thick, and we'll show you what the A-arm looks like on the inside here with a bolt through it. Well, as you can see, I don't have much slack here. I might have half a tenth, 0.05 between the two. That's close. We're going to go ahead and do the rest of the assembly here and show what it looks like when everything is together. All right, now that we've got it assembled, you can easily see that there's going to be some trimming necessary here. I'm going to go, I take a 5/16 inch bolt through here, which I don't happen to have on hand. So I'll stick a 1/4 inch bolt through there. This is the approximate height and position. I'm going to need to trim out some material. It looks as though it's approximately a 1/2 inch or so with a bevel. So I'll come in here and then like so. Remove a little bit, check it, remove a little bit more. We're way overbuilt here, but let's be conservative with our approach. We're going to trim this and be back to you to show you the results. Okay, let's take a look at this. A little closer. I need to bevel that. I'll remove some more material. Back with you in a minute. This got beveled back to clear. Oh, I should have shown you that. That was real smart. Let me show you this before we go to tape this. My first words will work it. Right through. Here's the right bolt. You see I just clear here. And everything's tight here. When I come up, I'm all the way in. I just miss that section. I don't need a lot of material here, but as long as you've got more than 2 diameters around the edge of your bolt, you have plenty of material. We're going to come up around here and remove all of this material to clear the longeron. The longeron is only 2 inches tall here. And we're going to remove the core material from inside of the longeron. In this area, the left, you can see the longeron comes to here. I'm going to remove the core material all the way to the phenolic hard point. So from here, I'm going to remove all this core material all the way to the back. Actually, I don't need to really remove the core material right in the area of the tab. But I'm going to sand this interior, and I'm going to pack this interior with dry micro. So when I close this, it's solid from this hard point aft. And again, I don't know what I was thinking. You're just going to remove the core material right in the area of the tab. And about 3/4 of an inch wide. You don't want to have to play with close tolerances. You're going to, as I said before, pack this with dry micro, reproducing the core, making it a solid entity. And then we're going to, after fitting it on top, we're going to do 4 plies of glass from the longeron face, underneath the dry micro, and onto this face, all the way up to where the hard point ends, making this a solid member fore and aft. I'll be back with you at the next step. You saw the before, this is the after. There's the trimming. This is 0.9 from the outside edge right here at the top to this edge, down 2 inches. Drill through, radius the corner. The result of which looks like this. This came out of this corner, or this corner. And don't bother cutting that off, just go right around the corner. You can see how much meat we have above this. We're going to sand this face and bond a plate of aluminum on here, which would, and then backdrip with the aluminum. If this tried to fail, it would have to fail the entire piece of aluminum in shear to do so. Well, actually, the aluminum ends right here. Physically impossible. If it appears that we've over-trimmed any, believe me, we haven't. We're still overbuilt here by quite a long shot. 2.9. All this stuff gets sanded. Now then, the longeron. As we showed you before, the areas over the hard points, we've marked spaces here. We're going to go all the way through the interior skin, remove the foam core, sand everything on the inside, aft of the hard point, all the way to the back. This surface, but you're going to sand the entire interior surface of this interface tab, its entire length. The cut lines here are scored into the tool and are provided for you. The trim at the back, trimmed to precise fit to match your structures. It's also trimmed in this area That's the rollover structure. And at the front, the length, they drop over, put over place. This isn't going to go in back here and down all the way until the foam on the interior has been removed. Now up in the front here, in this area, the instrument panel has been removed to facilitate the dropping of the longeron. And you can see how we removed rather wide for the drop in place. We're going to end up replacing his instrument panel with aluminum panel anyway, so we're going to leave a frame for the panel to attach to, and that will be about it. But just trim to match the part lines. You'll find that the longeron fits the depressions absolutely perfectly. Back with you in a moment. Okay, so we've done some trimming. Here's what it looks like when it's trimmed. Sanded in here. And I've sanded in here. I haven't sanded everything in here yet, but I've got it fit in place and darn, it doesn't fit. Well, that's why. I got to remove that material there, let it come on down, and I'll progressively move down. Back with you in a moment. Now we've done the trimming. We've established the center of where our bolt hole is, which is about 5/8 of an inch. You can see the old hole right there. This is an early fuselage. And that's much too close to the longeron to put a bolt. We moved over 3/8 of an inch from there. That's our bolt center. And from there, over 1.5 inches, and that is to the inside corner of our previously beveled piece of plywood. 4.5 inches this direction, 2.5 inches this direction. This is 90 degrees to this forward face. Now we put a nice sharp bead of super glue along the bottom edge of that razor sharp edge. It's an attempt to limit how much super glue ends up on the surfaces. I love that stuff. Now we have one of the more evolved zip kicker bottles on the planet. Now we'll let that dry. It's already rock solid. I'm going to fill that bevel up with flocks. Those of you who have read the lower engine mount plans already, you'll recognize this. We're going to do the other side. I'm going to trim about another 1/8 of an inch off of this edge, paralleling this, to make room for the engine mount glass that's going to end up in here, so that while this engine mount glass is absolutely wet, I can put the longeron back in here and not disturb it while I'm squishing the dry micro out from underneath it and behind it. I'm going to do that engine mount layup, practice the dry micro, stick it down in place. This upper surface will have been sanded all the way to here, and this will have been sanded all the way down. I'll brush resin on here, and then pack this with dry micro from here up to here. Of course, I have to brush resin on this surface first, and then apply 2 plies of bid across that dry micro into the surface and onto this flat. And then I'll apply a block of phenolic in the corner and 1 ply of bid over top of it, which will complete this engine mount area. So this gets standard engine mount glass. The 6 plies on this side, 6 plies here, 6 plies on this side. We'll get back to you in a moment. Okay, this is the final description of how much material needs to be removed to clear your engine mount. We've got just under 1/4 of an inch here and about 1/8 of an inch right there. When this goes in place, it cannot hit the glass because I'm going to lay this up wet. 5 minutes later, I'm going to pack this thing with dry micro, put resin on the back side of this, put flocks along the longeron, and brush resin on all these surfaces and squish it in place. And I don't want to disturb this glass. The bolt hole is going to go right about here. And there's enough room between the back of this longeron and this surface to handle the layers of glass that go in this corner. Actually, I probably need to remove another 1/8 of an inch, because remember we've got 6 plies doubling to 12 in the back, and then 6 plies doubling to 12 on top of that. So there's 24 plies of glass that go in here.
Yes, sir.
Phenolic goes on top of that. So,
Okay, you got my number for me? The number, the amount? He lost it.
yeah, so we're going to remove another 3/16 inch of material to give us plenty of room. Okay, we're very near the layup sequence for this engine mount and the Longeron attachment. And since I'm running out of time here in Dallas, I need to compact everything I'm doing into a short period of time as possible. So we're going to lay up all that stuff, and then we're going to finish it off with this tab of phenolic that is parallel to this tab, 2 inches forward of this trim on the face of the Longeron. I just put a 2-inch wide piece of aluminum on here and then made the mark. If you project this out, this plane, the bottom of this tab is 1/4 inch above that point. The top is 7 inches from the top of the Longeron. The tab itself is 2 1/4 inches tall. It's 1.5 inches wide. The hole centers are 0.65 down, 0.65 up, 0.75 over, 3/4 inch over, and the hole diameters are 7/16 inch. We're going to super glue that on, look down from above and make sure it's parallel with this tab, and then I'm going to put 3 plies of glass per side on it. I've got my marks on here at this point. Chris, were they visible, those marks? I'm going to sand that area off and reproduce the marks and then super glue it in place. So I'll be back with you after it's super glued on and the area is sanded. Here we go. We don't need much. We don't want it to be on anything. I'm going to go to the front edge of the line, parallel the tab, parallel the spar. Zing. What's going to go in here is going to be a 45-degree bulkhead fitting in the bottom, a 90-degree bulkhead fitting at the top. The 45 will come in this direction and over. The 90 will come down and over. A bulkhead nut on one side of each nut. The hydraulic cylinder sits in here. The line comes in at the bottom and plugs into the bottom T. Bottom T, the flexible line comes out, comes across, the line plugs into the bottom of the 45 degree. Out of the top fitting is a T. There's a hydraulic fitting that runs forward. Around this fitting, plugs into the bottom of the T. Out of the top goes a flexible line that runs up and straight down into the bulkhead fitting. Out of these 2 bulkhead fittings come aluminum lines, flow lines that go from here, through here, to the wheel well for the gear door retract. We'll be back to you as we lay up glass. Okay, we've got a little thing, something a little different here than the other engine mounts that we've done, in that this plywood is only 2.5 inches tall, not 3.5. We've got 2.5, I'm sorry, not 3, 2.5 by 3.5. So when I do my fold on this, it's going to be 2.5 inches up the edge, not 3 inches. It's not going to be in the center. So my cut's going to be 2.5 inches from this edge, not 3. So I'll make that cut, the fold, be back with you in a moment. Okay, we've got the first tab done. I had some extra cut off. I threw aluminum foil onto the back side of it, split it up, so I got 3 plies per side. Now this is tremendous overkill, 3 per side. And I've got enough glass on here, 3/8 inch onto the side of the fuselage is certainly sufficient for what this tab is doing. But if you want to be completely anal about it, a 1-inch lap is customary. A nice general flux corner on each edge. Squeeze out the air. I'll show you the pulling of the glass here. And you can clearly see where you're going to back drill later. For the holes, repeat on the opposing side. Okay folks, here we go, inboard side. You've seen this before, but We're going to make you sit through it again. Oops. Yeah, sure you are. Well, you can see what I'm doing. It'd be fine if I had it the other way around, since I've got this backwards. Yep, he's got it backwards all right, folks. And foil's on the wrong side. This would have worked fine where I had it. But I gotta switch the foil. Back with you in a moment. Okay, I got it cut backwards. I'm gonna stick a piece of foil on here. Rub it out. Now this is the foil, the bad foil I wanted to remove. Now the position I was in before was correct if the foil was on the wrong side. Now that it's been corrected, we can go from there.
Much better.
Yeah. I want this down in that corner. All the way. And I want this down in the corner all the way. And the idea is to work as much air out of this as possible, which I'll do. And I'll pull that foil and work it around this piece and then lay it back. Okay, we're back with you again. Just as I'm pulling the foil. Come to this corner. Now you can really see the air underneath there. Rub the air out. Feather the edges with your finger. Get the air out of the bottom. Use a brush. If you have any problems, if you want to push the cloth around a little bit, but get all the air out from underneath it. Now the flap that I put in that previous corner down in here is going to help modify or prevent any air from being captured down here in the corner. Now I'll work this and pull the rest of the foil. Any more air you can see shows up as these white streaks. See right there, the bubble? Just move it along the edge. And just keep working the cloth down. There's a bubble right there. Work it toward the edge. Work into the corner again. Okay, I'll work the rest of the air out of this. And then the last laminate is this one in the corner. That's going to be the fun one. So we'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, we're going to prevent this from happening the second time. I'm going to get a visual on it. There's the width of the base. I'm going to go full width. And it's glass on the outside. There's my cut line. I go in 2.5 inches. And a good sharp pair of scissors. 2.5 by 2.5. Now I'm going to use everything I can on this side, so I'm not going to try and do a cut like I did here and here. Fold, fold, stuff it in the corner. Which one do I want to do first into the corner? Well, it's kind of which monkey gets to the football first, if those of you in the crowd know what I mean. that down, pull that corner up. A little bit of that cloth came around the corner because I didn't bevel it up at the top. But don't worry about that. As long as you feather it and put a little flux along the edge so there's no air capture when you lay this over top of it, it's not a problem. I'm fully into the corners, all the way around. This is a miserable layup. But it is a short one. It doesn't take long to do. We now have 24 plies of cloth where I'm working my thumb here. Okay, we're exactly in a minute after you pull some foil. Okay, there's the pie. Fully in there. There's a big bubble. So it can come out of the center. Didn't see it until I changed my position of my head. There's another one coming up. See it like a big elephant hiding underneath here. Got to go over every square inch of it because 6 plies is a bit thick to be able to see through. Change your head position. That's what it looks like. We have 6 plies here, 12 plies there, 24 plies here, 6 here, 6 here, 12 here, and 6, you get 12, 6 here, and 12 here, 6 here. Okay, it hasn't been 30 seconds since our last shot. Let's see if we've removed enough material. You can see how close we come to the laminate. We're right up against the back edge, right against the bottom. We're going to 1/16 of an inch of the sides. We're going to fill this sucker up with dry micro and do the last portion of this operation. As you can see, we're trying to not disturb that laminate as much as possible. Be careful. Oh, okay. We're going to go down here. The width of the Longeron plus an inch. We're going to go right up to the tab. The side of the tab here is the part that's going to go inside the Longeron. We're going to brush the resin on this area here. Okay, now where the Longeron attaches to the exterior. Can you come on this side, Chris? He's going to turn off this for a second. He's going to show you where this thing goes. We're also going to make sure we wet the outside of this tab. Look at those plies of glass. Isn't those pretty? Woo-ha. About to be buried forever. We're going to put some resin up here too because we've got a lot of work to follow up on. All at one shot. Okay, he's going to come around this side. As soon as I get the resin on here, you'll be able to see where I've sanded. But I've sanded all the way down the edge of the bevel. And I've sanded the entire interior of the Longeron where it actually bonds to this face. Just where it bonds to this face and where it bonds over the landing gear. We're going to mix the remainder of this with flux, and as soon as we get the videotape stopped, we're going to get this out of the sunlight. UV will damage your structures. I'll be back with you as soon as we get the inside of the Longeron brushed with resin. Okay, you can see inside the Longeron here, it's this area here, all the way up to the hard point. Every square inch on the interior of this brush with resin. The bottom of the longeron as well. Inside. Inside. Now then, this entire interface area for the rest of the length. Nothing on the exterior. Now I'll put flocks in the depression where this longeron goes. I haven't drilled for clecos yet, but actually after I get the flocks in place, I can drill and cleco as I go. Not a good idea, folks. Keep your longeron upper surfaces clean. They were made the way they were so you don't have to paint them. But you do have to take some care and caution for the complete building phase of the airplane to make that work. Okay, that's it for the moment. Now we mix up the flocks, put it in place, and micro. Okay. We're not going to pack this entirely from scratch. We're going to pack the things that we're going to have difficulty getting into. Do a lot of packing from below. The area over the spar will definitely do a complete pack. Go underneath, and we'll put the micro on the edge. So here. And we'll pack this on top. This we're going to overfill with the expectation of oozement or squeezement. We can get to this area easily from underneath. Okay, moment of truth. Okay, now there won't any gapposis in here at all. No openings, nothing left. Especially on top of these tabs. So I'm going to pre-pack the top of these with flocks. I've already gone to the inside of the longeron where this goes and fill it with micro. It'll all squeeze out and find its equilibrium as things are being pushed in place. This is all covered with flocks on the exterior. It's got a peak down the center and it's going to squeeze both directions when it gets in there. Everything here is wetted. We're in preparation, stand by, and we'll apply. Okay, we're dropped into the slot. Down and in. Okay, I didn't get enough squeezement in this area here, so I'm going to pull it back off again and hope I don't move things around too much. I have a lot of my people say, you gotta work that out. No, I don't. And no, I shouldn't. You should see everything that happens as it happens. I want you to know what you can get away with and what you can't. The end of a stick will probably work better for this in some areas. Now after I go through removing the micro, I'm going to make sure I haven't induced any air into the laminate. Poke it around with my finger a little bit and push it down. Now I'm going to add a whole bunch more micro to the underside of this longeron. And now I have a better idea of how much micro I really need in there. So we're going to turn off for a second, and I'll be back with you in a moment. All right, first you don't succeed. Here we go again. Here we go. Now, we go down the longeron. Squeeze it until I get it coming out the bottom. This flux was getting kind of elderly, and it didn't become unfirm, but it became quite firm. Remove. Okay. Any minor discrepancies you have in here, I'm going to get this pack the micro in underneath. No gaps. Now I'm going to pack this with dry micro underneath, all the way up. This micro is a little loose, so we're going to dry it up some so it'll go in there and won't have an opportunity to move. But before I go any further, I'm going to put 9 clicos into this longeron, spaced about every 9 or so inches. Get it firmly in place, and then I'll finish packing this up with dry micro and cleaning this up for the last few plies and the dry micro that goes in this area.